This is Marketing Jam, a show featuring the brightest minds in marketing.
All right, I want to welcome everyone to a special edition of Marketing Jam. We're trying a new tool, Zoom, today, and we have a very, very special guest, Frank Palmer. My introduction, actually, to Frank was going into a golf tournament named after Frank Palmer. And so while at a golf tournament for NABS, which, of course, many of you probably know, but supports people who are in the advertising industry and are struggling, they support them. The Invitational Golf Tournament in British Columbia is named after Frank Palmer. So thank you so much for being on here. And part of why we're here today, of course, is a new initiative that you've launched with a partner to help brands and businesses at this time.
Yeah, well, I think that what's happening right now is something that most of us in the advertising world haven't experienced before. We've been through different crises and lost business and people who have gone bankrupt. And I've lived through the 50 years that I've been in this business. I've seen some ups and downs, but nothing close to what's taking place now. And having been involved with an agency network in Canada called TransCanada Agency Network, TransCanada Advertising Network, we changed our name just about a year ago to simplify it. We have 30 members from coast to coast across Canada. And the thought for me was to reach out to those agencies and ask them to put up some advice if clients were to call, non-clients, not-for-profits, so that they could reach out, because a lot of clients have never seen this before and they can react the wrong way. And I said that the worst thing that you can do is to look like you're profiteering. Mm-hmm. You want to make an offer and it's a 2-for-1, or you want to do an offer where you buy something, you get something else. In some cases that may be okay, but you don't want to look like you're profiteering from it. And there's been some really interesting comments that have taken place over the last 2 weeks or so. So we've got some really good feedback so far from media. They've taken it upon them and they put it in their press releases, etc., and they're online. And we've had people reach out to us and say that we're doing a pretty good thing. I mean, it's really something that we can do sitting at home, having somebody call me and say, what would you do in a case like this? I said, well, if you twist it ever so slightly, it's more meaningful and the client will actually appreciate that. So we're getting a number of calls from various clients, from automotive to telcos to restaurants and that type of stuff. So I haven't got the complete list with which 30 agencies have got, so I'm sure everybody's getting different questions.
And so for people that are curious about this, what is it that you're offering and how do people acquire
Well,
it?
you call into the various agency. First of all, you go to the TCAN network in your area, or the agency in your area. If you're in Halifax or St. John or Calgary or Vancouver, you say, my name is so-and-so, and I've got a little situation here where I'd like to ask you some questions about this offer that I want to put out, or what advice would you give me for my staff as it relates to messaging to my staff? And it's those kinds of things that we've basically got some tools that we can say, don't do this or don't do that, or yeah, you're on the right track. And it's just helpful hints on advertising, because it really means that I look at it this way. If you're doing the right thing and you're delivering something to somebody's house, let's say it's pizza, for example, and all of a sudden the door comes, somebody knocks on your door. I know they're doing this in Toronto, and you got your pizza, and the person who delivers it via one of the delivery services says, we've taken 20% off the cost of your pizza and we've given you a free drink. Oh, really? Really? You'll remember that little notion. You'll remember that little kindness that someone said, you didn't ask for it, but we did it automatically. Subaru has got a really good spot out there right now running that basically says that if this spot was paid for to run a car ad, and now we're telling you what to do that's better to stay home and take care of your family. And it's really the right thing to do at a time like this, that you shouldn't necessarily stop your advertising, but you can convert it with a message of kindness.
That's great. And then you and your fellow members of this network are offering this advice for free for agencies.
Absolutely. Yeah, no charge for it. I mean, the first thing I said to everybody is that we should do this as I'm the chairman, and I've been the chairman for a number of years, you say, this is something that you can do at home and don't try and make a buck on it. This is a time when you shouldn't. Don't do it. Just offer it up for, now, maybe down the road, they might come back to you at some point in time and say, we'd like to deal with you, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to say, here's some free advice, because there's a lot of people out there and clients. You take these small agencies, and quite frankly, we're a small business. I mean, I was the chairman of and CEO of DDB Canada for a number of years, over 20 years. And I know for a fact that, having been involved in this business, that every single business is feeling this pinch. Yeah. Big guys and small guys. And the big guys may have more money, but the problem is some of those big guys have airlines, hotels, and their spending has been stopped or curtailed, And the little guys are in the same boat, because they don't have that much, capital that's in the bank. And I've had today I've had a bank reach out to me, ask me for some advice on what they should be doing, and so we've been giving them some advice too. So it's a good deed. We like to think we're kind of like the Red Cross of communications right now.
That's amazing. So what's the website people can go to for finding?
Well, I'd tell you what it was if I could remember it. It's what is TCAN. You can go on to Google, and I should be smart enough to have that right in front of me right now. But the website was just changed. So if you go online, you can find it. If you go online to Google, you can look up Trans-Canada Advertising Network.
Okay, great. And Frank, tell me a bit about yourself. Like, for those that are maybe haven't maybe read your book, or haven't met you or heard of you yet, or been in your golf tournament, tell me a bit about kind of your background and how you got to be where you are.
Well, I started off many years ago, even though I'm an elderly gentleman now, I still think I'm very youthful, right? And I started off by going to the Vancouver School of Art. And after I graduated from the Vancouver School of Art, which is now called Emily Carr in Vancouver, I ended up getting a career in advertising, starting for a television station in my early years. And after that, worked for a direct mail company until I started an agency back in 1969.
That's cool.
Called Trend Advertising. And it led to Palmer Jarvis. And then when I sold the company in 1998 to DDB, we became DDB, Palmer Jarvis DDB, and then later we became just DDB. But at one point in time, up until about a year and a half ago, I had close to about 600 employees in Canada.
Wow.
With offices in Vancouver and Edmonton, Toronto, Montreal, and 3 brands under my directorship, which was DDB Canada, Anderson DDB, as well as Red Urban. And 3 different agencies, 3 different brands. And it was really rewarding for me. It was a really great company to work for, and a lot of great experience. So between having a small agency, which I would say was good experience, but then moving to a larger agency to know what they have to go through and what their dealings are like, it gives me the sort of the mixture of both, knowing how both of them operate. And I think right now it's a really, really good time, once we get through this epidemic, that small agencies that can afford to survive will do much better. Will actually come out of this thing in pretty good shape. But what they have to do now is they have to take the necessary steps to hunker down and make the steps that are kind to their staff and making sure that they're servicing their clients in the right way, being respectful at the same time. And it's actually feeling good to be able to do this.
Okay, that's amazing. So if someone just calls any of those agencies and they say, hey, I'm looking for the free support person, they'll set them up with a meeting and a phone call.
Yeah, well, you can do like a Skype call or a Zoom call or a telephone call, or sometimes it can be just a email and saying, I'm looking for some advice. The one that called me this morning said, listen, we need some advice in this area. We're a fairly large company, and this has never happened to us before. So do you mind us if we contact you in an hour and a half with some of our senior people, that you would be able to go on a call just like this?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah. I said, if you want to give me a heads up on some of the questions that you might want to ask, I'll do some research on it and make sure that we're giving you the correct advice, because we won't want to be telling them something that's wrong.
Yes.
You know? And I think that, as I say, I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers to all these things.
Yeah.
But if I don't, I'll reach out to somebody in the industry that does, and then get back to them with hopefully an answer that they like.
That's great.
That does them some good.
And how does someone become part of the network? Like, what was the process to creating
Well,
this?
the network was started by a gentleman by the name of Bill Whitehead Sr. He was an advertising practitioner in the Toronto marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
His son, Bill Jr., now runs the organization as the managing director, who's in the health care area, and he's getting a lot of people asking him for advice at this point in time. So it was an agency that you had to be a member in a city, and you were only to be one agency per city. Now, when you're a small agency like we started way back when, we didn't have all the tools and we didn't have all the knowledge. But when you gather as a group across Canada with 25 agencies, you had a network of talent where you could call upon them for something that you didn't know about. Yeah. Plus, it was also a way in which we could compete against the large agencies. Because in Vancouver, when I first started, there was us in a small little shop of 4 or 5 people. And then we had the likes of the McKims and the McLarens and the Hayhursts and the Lovicks, and they were all big agencies. So we're competing against them. So what we had to do is create something that looked bigger than them in order to compete. And then eventually we became one of them. You know what I mean? Like, we were a little agency that grew into the big agency. So I like it to the fact that we were the local little home hardware.
Nice.
And later on in life, we became Home Depot.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's the fact of the matter is, where the local agencies can do really well is that they know their customers and the markets they serve, and they get to the president or the chairman or the founder of the company. Whereas you get bigger, you lose that contact. Mm-hmm. You work through a different group of people. You work through procurement. You work through, it's just a different thing. So I think the smaller agencies were going to really benefit going forward, because they still have those connections and relationship with the founder and the leadership of that company, and they will know exactly what to do for them.
Yeah. Wow. And tell me, your book came out a year ago. Maybe tell people about the book that you put together.
Yeah, it was called, frankly, Let's Get Frank. And I hired a writer, Robin Burnett, to come in and talk to me every week for about 3 years. And I had started this prior to talking to Robin, because I felt that there was always maybe some stories to be told. And if you've had a chance to read the book, and if you haven't, I'll send you one. I've been a practical joker all my life. I love having fun at this business. It's still having fun today, even though we're under different circumstances. But you have to lighten up. You have to have fun. And I've had a lot of fun during this business, and I've enjoyed it for the last 50 years. But the book itself took me 3 years to get written. Mm-hmm. And it came out about 1.5 years ago. I launched it in Toronto with our national agency association called NABS. It's a charity. And I launched it there in the founding, the gentleman, the president, was Jay Bertram, used to run TBWA. And so I can only tell you, I don't know how many has been sold. It was published by a reputable company. And it was just a fun thing to do. I've had a lot of people who have sent me emails and saying, if I see you in the next little while, will you sign it for me? Absolutely. So, but it was really a fun thing to do. And it's something that you can sort of look back on in later years in life and sort of laugh at yourself, I guess.
Well, that's great.
And remember some of the stories, because when you've been in this business for as long as I have, I lived through the early stages of Mad Men. Mm-hmm. Not like, if you've watched the series, mm-hmm. People say to me, what was it like back then? I said, well, look, I'm not quite that old.
Yeah.
But I did live in the last probably 10 years of the Mad Men era. And it was just like that. I mean, it was just like that.
Wow.
We would come to work in the morning. We'd be wearing a suit. Sometimes we'd be wearing a tie. Mm-hmm. And I'd have clients come in my office at 11 o'clock in the morning and want to go directly to my fridge, where I would have a beer, yep. or I would have some scotch or vodka or whatever it was. I mean, and then you were dealing with the client, and more often than not, they weren't there to talk about advertising.
Mm.
They were talking to you about their life
Yeah.
and
Okay.
what they. And so for us as a company, my partner and I, in Elevator's strategy, we were getting ready to launch a brand new company
Mm.
that would be over top of the advertising, because more often than not today,
Mhm.
advertising needs a clear and truthful voice.
Yeah.
And I think that coming out of this issue that we're going through right now, those companies that benefit, if we say, you shouldn't do this.
Mhm.
There's a story, it's a little joke, if you don't mind me telling you. It's not dirty, but it's a joke. Where the chairman of this large dog food company went to his marketing director and he said, listen, our sales are terrible. We've got to do something. So here, what I want you to do is I want you to go out and hire the best advertising agency that money can buy.
Mhm.
I want you to get the best trustable spokesperson that money can buy. And I'll spend $10 million over the next 2 months allowing you guys to promote and talk about our dog food. So 2 months later, he calls them back in and he says, did you do what I told you to do? Yes, we did, sir. Did you hire the best agency? The best agency, yeah. We hired the best spokesperson also. Did you spend the money? Yeah. He says, well, sales are still down. Tell me what's wrong. The dogs won't eat it.
That's great.
And I think what's really out there right now is people are still advertising and promoting services that really have either no value,
Yeah.
the product or service is not that good,
Mhm.
but advertising agencies still take their money.
Mhm.
And I don't want to be one of those advertising agencies.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to be the agency that tells the client the truth by saying, don't spend any money.
Yeah.
And this is what we were going to create, and we still are going to create it. And we launch it hopefully in the next months or so, that we're there to tell you the truth, and maybe we'll do your advertising. And it doesn't have to be with us, but we want you to be able to fix what you're doing
Yeah.
first before you start to promote and advertise.
Wow. That's great.
And I hope that is good. And I hope that we obviously can help our clients that way. And I think it's a better way to go for us moving forward into the future. And I would say that's the kind of advice that a lot of advertising agencies are going to have to take a look at, because being a member of these 30 agencies, I feel their pain too. I mean, we have to make change. We have to let people go.
Yeah.
We have to cut some salaries, including and especially our own.
Yeah.
And from all the other companies that I've talked with that I know still from the past, because being a member of a large network, I happen to know a lot of other large agencies. They've had to make some real serious cuts, like 20 and 30%.
What a lot of agencies are asking for now is just now, as an agency owner or someone working in agencies, what's your biggest advice people can do? I've heard a lot of ideas, but as far as like, what's kind of over the years you've seen the downfall, the rise and fall of the economy, what's your biggest piece of advice for people who are in the?
Well, if you're a leader, act like a leader.
Okay.
I mean, the point being is that if you're in charge of an organization, the clients, and more particularly your staff, are looking at you for wisdom.
Yeah.
So you're the family member. You're the mother or the father of the family. You're the one that says, no, I'll let me think about that if you don't have an answer, and I'll get back to you. But more importantly, you've got to make the right moves, because you're dealing with a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
So you got to stay strong and act that way. I can send you out. I wrote a little paper here called Strategy, and I'll just read it to you. It said, what Canadian advertisers should do? Well, one is to close your home, work from home. Close your offices, work from home. You got to talk to your clients about the situation. You got to let them know what you're doing, but you're going to work remotely. In fact, one thing that's come out of this is we've all are learning how to work this working from home better. In fact, it works quite well. We get a lot of things done a lot faster.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But we're still human people. We want to be socialized. So you want to be around others. We have a video call every single day at a certain time. 10 o'clock in the morning, we have everybody online. And if all our staff and saying, what have you done here? What have you done there? And we all sort of do it. We have, and try to remain calm. But the fact is that if we also have to act, as I said, like leaders, because if you don't, the rest of the gang is going to panic over what you're not doing right.
Yeah.
People are worried about their jobs. People
Yeah.
are worried, I mean, I don't know what it's like where you're at right now, but if you look out, I look out my window, there's very few cars on the street. I could walk across the street on Georgia Street and probably not get run over.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's quite quiet. That's for sure.
Yeah. And, many years ago when you asked me about the golf tournament. Well, it's probably going to be postponed until the fall, or if it's not even held, maybe not, is that in our industry, when they're laying off 20 and 30% of the jobs in the industry, our national charity, which is NABS, they're going to have more needs and, for people that are out there that can't find jobs, because, this industry is going to be very different after this.
Wow.
There'll be less agencies. You're going to find that there's going to be probably a rethinking, rationalizing of whether or not large agency networks have to have multiple offices in the same city.
Mm-hmm.
I could see where some of them are going to be joining each other.
Yeah.
And that you started to see that prior to last year, where you started to see some of the agencies closing down one of their brands and merging. Yeah. I think you'll see more of that too, because there really is too many brands.
Yeah. Well, this has been greret. Frank, honestly, thank you so much for making time today. I know you've got a lot going on. You're taking calls.
I appreciate it. But if you want to, if there's anything I was unclear of, just call me again, and I'll be more than pleased to get on the phone with you. And I will text you the TCAN web link so that you have it on.
That's great. We'll put all the links in the description here for everyone that is listening on the audio. Make sure that you check the description in the podcast and on the YouTube channel. And there'll be a lot of great resources for you. And we'll put a link to your book that's available on Amazon, and a link to NABS as well. If you're looking for help or you want to give to NABS, this is a great time for checking out NABS if you haven't heard of them already.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Frank?
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.